A very good morning to all of you. So the topic for today's tutorial is episiotomy and episiotomy scissors. Now episiotomy is a very important topic because it is a routinely or most commonly done surgical procedure in obstetrics, right? If somebody asks you what is the most commonly done surgical procedure in obstetrics, one is episiotomy and maybe after that cesarean section, right? So coming to what is episiotomy. So in normal labor, as you all know that the second stage of labor is the climax of labor, right? So in the second stage of labor, the perineum and the vulva, they are at risk of getting injured because such a big head or such a big presenting part is going to stretch it completely and then it is going to come up. Nature has made perineum very distensible and it can distend to a large capacity and then it can deliver the hard big fetal head without any injury as it happens in other animals. But at times the fetus can be larger or there can be a little bit of larger head and the perineum could be small and then there is a chance of perineal tear. And if a tear happens, that tear is irregular and it becomes very difficult it becomes difficult for the surgeon to stitch and at the same time the healing may get affected, right? So obstetricians over a period of time they realized this problem and then they came out with the idea of giving a surgically planned incision. It is a pre-planned incision which we give on the perineum in the second stage of labor, right? Now the purpose of today's tutorial is uh, the instrument, that is episiotomy scissors, right? So this is the typical episiotomy scissor. As I always teach, whenever you are sitting in front of the examiner on a table viva, the whole concept of giving you any instrument, any drug, any contraceptive device, or any contraceptive drug or specimen, the, the whole concept is first, you should be able to identify the given thing to you. And the second thing is to start some discussion on a particular topic to assess your knowledge also. And at the same time, to know whether you have really seen certain procedures and certain management aspects of that particular concerned skill. Right now, this is a typical episiotomy scissors. There are different types of episiotomy scissors. One of them is this one, right? So as you can see, it is a scissor. It has two blades. As you can see here, there is one blade which is pointed and another blade which is blunt at the end, right? There's a basic concept behind this, that this blunt end it goes inside the vaginal end. This goes on the skin part, so that this part, if it comes in contact with the presenting part of the fetus, it should not injure the internal presenting part of the fetus, right? Now this instrument you will hold in your hand and you will say that this is an episiotomy scissors. It has two blades. One is a sharp blade, second is a blunt. Another is a blunt, has a blunt end. Both the blades are flat, as you can see. They are not having prominent surfaces. They've been made like blades. They are um, flat, right? And they are sharp. They have sharp edges because it's a scissors, isn't it? Now both the blades are going in one direction, right? And they are at the angle of 60 degrees with the shank, right? This part is called as shank, right? This is the joint. This part is the joint. This is the shank, and these are the finger bows, right? Now these finger bows at times are in the same direction, in one side, right? This bow is not going towards the other side. It is going on the same side. The whole concept is when you are actually cutting, this should not, these two blades should be going towards the away from perineum and they should not be uh, coming in your way. Otherwise, it will, the perineal area is such that if there is a bow jutting out on both sides, it will be difficult for the obstetrician to cut. Now, I'll show you certain slides that will make you understand it little easily, right? Right. So let me just share the screen. Right. Okay. Yeah. Now, as you can see here, this is a typical episiotomy scissor, right? So, episiotomy is nothing but it is a surgically planned incision which is made on the perineum, right? So that the second stage of labor and the you make a little larger passage for the fetal presenting part to come out, right? So, it's a planned surgical incision, right? Now, let us just quickly go through the anatomy of the perineum, right? Before that, we'll see this slide. So here, as you can see, this is the typical climax of second stage of labor, when the fetal head is completely stretching the perineum, right? And you will see that just quickly I'll go through the parts of the vulva. From here, anterior to posterior, if the fetal head would not have been there, then there is the clitoris, then there is urethra, then there are two labia minora. The area between the two labia minora is also called as vestibule of vulva. So vestibule of vulva is nothing but it starts anteriorly or it is bounded anteriorly by clitoris and posteriorly by the perineum or the fourchette area. So the area where two labia minora posteriorly, right? So when they please mute yourself, all of you. So where it meets posteriorly, this part is called as fourchette, this point, right? The posterior point, right? And the area between this fourchette and the anus is called as the perineum. So this entire area is called perineum, right? Now these are the muscles internally. If you see anatomy, these are the muscles which are there in the perineal area. So when you give episiotomy, you are actually going to cut the internal vaginal mucosa. Then you are going to cut deep inside between the vagina and the skin. Inside the substance of that perineum are going to be these muscles. So what are these muscles? These are ischio. This is the bulbocavernosus muscle. Then these are the levator ani muscles, right? So the levator ani muscles, they come from sacrum and they are coming up to the perineum like a hammock, right? So the posterior part or the one which comes towards the anus and the perineum are the levator ani muscles. And lower down here is gluteus maximus. So there is no question that you are going to cut gluteus maximus in episiotomy over here. So which muscles you are going to cut? The bulbocavernosus and the levator ani muscles. Then the levator ani muscles have two parts: superficial transverse perineal muscles and the deep levator ani muscles. So when you give an episiotomy, you are going to cut the skin. Internally, you are going to cut the vaginal mucosa, and between vaginal mucosa and skin outside, inside the substance of that perineum, you are going to cut the bulbocavernosus muscle, the superficial transverse perineal muscles, and the deep levator ani muscles, right? So coming to this slide, if you can see, this is how the presentation here is not proper. They have shown face presentation, but otherwise you will see scalp here, like in this slide. You will see something like this in normal labor because it is the occiput which is going to stretch the, or the vertex which is going to stretch the vulval outlet, right? So this is how the vulva is going to get stretched. So clitoris, then below that urethra, then labia minora, both coming and joining here, that is the fourchette, and then below, between the fourchette and the anus, the area is called as the perineum, right? Now, this is how an episiotomy is given. So the orange part is the vaginal introitus, and inside this is going to be the big fetal head, which is going to stretch the perineum and the introitus, right? So it is episiotomy is given. Is it given for every patient? These are the few questions which will be asked to you in exam. First is you will identify this instrument. As I said, you are going to say this is an episiotomy scissor. Then you are going to say the description of this instrument if the examiner asks you, that it has a pointed blade. It has two blades. One is pointed and sharp, and the other one is blunt at the tip, so that this part goes inside vagina and this part is outside the near the skin, and in between you're going to cut the perineal area. This part goes towards the fetal head inside the vagina so that it doesn't injure the fetal parts, right? and it is at the angle of 60 degree because it will be easier for you to enter the introitus and it will not hamper and hit the floor when you are conducting the delivery. So there is an angle of 60 degree which is given here between the shanks. These are the shanks and these are the finger bones. Finger bones in certain episiotomy scissors are on the same direction. ये जो shanks हैं, shanks के दोनों एक ही तरफ हैं. Otherwise, in normal scissors, you have the other finger goes on the other side. But this is to facilitate the instrument so that it does not obstruct the um, your cutting procedure, right? And it does not hit the perineum outside the skin. So it becomes easier for you to cut in that narrow area, right? So this is how this instrument is described. How do you sterilize this instrument? Any steel instrument can be sterilized by autoclaving. It can be sterilized by simple boil cleaning and then boiling, or it can be in certain situations where you don't have all these facilities and you want to use it quickly, then you can put it after cleaning the instrument. You can always put it in a glutaraldehyde solution, which is also called as Sidex solution, right? But generally in exam, if you say by autoclaving, that's more than enough, or boiling after cleaning the instrument, right? So now once you have decided that you need this episiotomy to be given to patients. Now, who are the patients who are going to need episiotomy? It is needed to patients in whom the perineum is little rigid, right? Or if you feel that the patient is bearing down for a long time and she needs little help by giving a simple small cut, maybe the head will come out easily. So generally in modern obstetrics, there are two schools of thought. One school of thought says that routinely you give episiotomy to all patients so that she is not excessively bearing down in second stage or first stage of in second stage of labor, so that the pelvic floor muscles and the diaphragm, urogenital diaphragm, is not injured, because she'll keep on bearing down and that is going to cause a lot of pressure and damage to the pelvic floor muscles, right? So some people say routinely you give it, and some people say there is no need. Naturally, the fetal head can come out very well. Only thing which you have to give is perineal support with the pad. But then routinely, if you see in labor room, most of the patients will require episiotomy so that you can prevent perineal tear. At times, the tear in the second stage of labor happens near the perineum, or it may happen here, paraurethral area. Here, if it doesn't give way here, it will give way here, and then the anterior vaginal wall bleeds very badly. So giving episiotomy serves two purposes. You have planned it, you have made it easier for the patient by doing it electively in the second stage at crowning stage. Second stage is it prevents, and second thing is it prevents perineal tear, isn't it? If it causes tear, no, without these incisions, then those tears are going to be anywhere. The tear can go medially down to anus, the tear can happen here. So you make artificial passage or small, enhancing the passage so that there is no ragged or irregular perineal or paraurethral tears which happen in normal pregnancy. Right? Those were the days when they were delivering at home, and these things must be happening routinely. Many of the women may not be even having perineum. It eventually used to get destroyed completely with multiparity, and then they used to have at times even incontinence, fetal incontinence, because this vagina and anus, they all used to become here at the end one passage, because repeated tears here used to cause that problem, right? Or somebody say has not given episiotomy, and if it is not been stitched properly also, these problems can occur, right? So it is always better to give episiotomy to all patients who you feel that the fetal head is not going to come out easily. Now, how do you give? There are three ways it can be given. One is three types of episiotomies which are there. One is median episiotomy. Median means it is straight, starts from fourchette where the two labia minora meet. So from fourchette towards the anus. So 2 centimeter, 3 centimeter cut is made. Or the cut is made mediolateral. That means this is median, then lateral would be like this, going just 90 degrees to the fourchette like this, right? And otherwise you can give mediolateral. So there are different definite advantages and disadvantages of these different types. If you give median, it is the easiest type of episiotomy because very few muscles are there. and giving cut is very easy. But the only problem is if it extends while coming out, when the head comes out, if it extends down, it tears little bit, then it will go in the anus. That's the only dangerous thing about median episiotomy. But otherwise, the blood loss is very less in median episiotomy. In lateral episiotomy, the um, chances of going into anal area are very less. But the problem is here you have pudendal vessels, and then what happens? The bleeding is more. So in between these two, what you have is mediolateral. So what we routinely follow in labor room is a mediolateral episiotomy. So the three types of episiotomies are median, mediolateral, and lateral. What we are routinely using is either left or right, depending upon the person, whichever side they want. You can give left or right. Mediolateral episiotomy. See, it's a surgical incision, so it is going to cause pain to the patient. So you have to give local anesthesia whenever you are planning to do episiotomy. So every normal delivery or normal labor tray has a 1%, 2% lignocaine loaded in a syringe, so that at the last minute, if you need episiotomy, you are not struggling to prepare all these things. So how do you give episiotomy? You are going to clean the parts with antiseptic solution. Then you are going to give local analgesia or local anesthesia, sorry, with xylocaine 1%. You are going to dilute it, and then you are going to inject that solution. Put needle inside. You are going to aspirate and see that no blood is coming out, because xylocaine should never go intravascular, right? So you are going to instill it here in the skin, in the muscle, and even inside the vagina. Now it will take 3 to 5 minutes for this your local anesthetic agent to act. So you are going to wait for some time, let it act, and then at the time of crowning, you are going to just give a cut. So while giving cut, this part will go near the, as I said, this part will go inside the vagina, and this part, the sharp part, will go in the skin. So this goes inside the vagina, this part goes here. And when you cut, you are going to give a 2 to 3 centimeter cut. Cutting inside, there will be vagina. In between the depth, outside will be skin, and between these two inside will be the muscles. So this is how the episiotomy will look once you cut it. This is how it looks. So this is the perineal part, this is the vaginal part, and inside, this is the inside. If you see 3D, this is the depth. Yes. So we learned about the what is episiotomy, what are the indications of episiotomy, how you give it, and now is the time to learn about how you suture it. Now, as you can see in the screen, this is the vaginal mucosa. This is the depth of the inside. This depth is the are the perineal muscles, and this is the skin part, right? So, and this is the anus, right? So you are going to get the natal cleft here below, and then these are going to be the thighs and gluteal areas on both sides. So first you are going to suture the apex of episiotomy. That is this part is called as apex of episiotomy. That means it is the highest point on the vagina, right? Then you are going to suture the muscle. So the vagina is closed by continuous or intermittent absorbable suture material, and then you are going to close the muscle by intermittent sutures. But here there is a lot of bleeding, so you have to take the mucosa and perineal muscles very. The hemostatic sutures have to be taken, and see to it that later on there is no collection of blood in the form of hematoma. And then the last thing which you suture is the skin. See, it becomes like this. So the incision inside the vagina, then the muscles inside your closed, and from fourchette to the last part, the skin is closed. So this is how you close the episiotomy suture, right? So uh, today we have learned about what is episiotomy, how the episiotomy scissors are used, and there's a there's another slide which you can see here, in which you can see how the hand is put inside the vagina, and then the scissors are used, and the scissors blade is guided on the hand, so that the internal fingers inside the vagina, they prevent the injury to the fetal part, right? So this is how you are going to use it after giving local anesthesia. So the episiotomy is a surgically planned incision which is given on the perineum uh, to help in the second stage of labor, so that the outlet can be, the introitus can be made little more, it is little easy for the patient to deliver the baby to come out, and there is no tear uh, in the perineal area. So the in exam they will ask you about identify this instrument, right? So you have to identify the instrument, then you have to describe the instrument. You always autoclave it. Sterilization method is autoclave. Any steel instrument autoclaving, or by boiling, or by putting it in glutaraldehyde solution. And then you are going to describe the, the sharp end, the blunt end, right? And then how episiotomy is given. What are the muscles which are cut in episiotomy? What are the layers of episiotomy? All those questions will be asked to you. So I think I was clear about the tutorial, in this tutorial, about episiotomy, scissors and episiotomy. The Viva can go even on the stages of labor. What are the stages of labor? In which stage of labor you're going to use episiotomy? In which phase of second stage of labor you're going to use episiotomy? So all those questions